See, I know what I can't.
I have a real world reference.
I mean, that's totally valid too, you know, if that's what you know, then approach it that way. But what about like optimizing? Do you like to choose backgrounds and species?
So what's funny is that I kind of go both for character creation, playing, and whenever I am like the random DM, is that I rule by chaos. So I don't know that things are like work together and are optimized until I click on it and I'm like, ooh, I get an extra, and then I go down the rabbit hole.
Yep. That's the most chaotic way. I do like that. John, did you have thoughts about how do you prefer optimizing?
I've always said that I'm not one for min-maxing, but that's a total lie because every time I go to create a character, I spend all this time min-maxing. Also, Molly went and did a goblin-focused campaign, and I convinced her to allow bugbears purely because I wanted the extra reach to combine with my barbarian and then use a polearm for like a 15-foot reach. So yeah, definitely do the min-maxing.
Am I just now realizing you have 15-foot reach in that campaign, John?
Yeah, which I don't really ever use, but it was a cool concept to have it.
And how have you still also been like? I guess you just have been rolling really bad. Sorry, John.
That's true. Yes, that's a big part of it. Doesn't matter how far your reach is if you can't overhit anything. Yeah.
Oh, I'm about to be kicked from the stream. John's in charge of this, of making sure it runs. Goodbye.
I mean, now we know why Pebble has bad rolls.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I mean, I'm very guilty of getting on like RPG bot and like going down these rabbit holes of like choosing the best class and the best spells. And then I actually get into the character and I'm like, why did I do that? I don't want to play this way. I want to play it based on how I'm envisioning this character, especially when it comes to spells and like casters, whereas like a more melee, you don't have as many options. Like you're going to smash with the hammer and slice with a sword, but like with spellcasters, you can set up these sorts of different things. And I don't think that far ahead. I just wait for them to say it's my turn and I'm just going to choose the easiest spell. I'm not going to try and think 6 steps ahead. So min-maxing has kind of bit me in the butt a few times by going down those trails of like, these are the spells you have to have as a warlock. Let me check and see.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I know I've done that, and then I usually regret it, and then I go, and then I waffle for like days before I'm just like, go with your gut. So, yeah, I'm playing Pathfinder right now occasionally, and one very hard, very different. It's been a big learning experience, and the spells, which are named very similar, can be very different. So I have learned that the hard way. To then be like, oh, let's just like, we really need to like read them and then pick what we think would be best, not just be like, oh yeah, let's just go with this. It has the same name. I know what it does. Turns out it doesn't. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Oh man, I've been thinking about trying to learn Daggerheart, and I'm like, does my brain have room for that? Because I'm not sure it does.
This is hard. And this is like Pathfinder 1, so there's less online about it anyway. So,
yeah, that sounds hard.
It's a little hard.
Do you guys like to play, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, but like, do you like to play into tropes, go totally against the grain, or take a trope and turn it on its head? I'll kind of give you an example of like, we talked about druids. You're going to assume they love all animals, but maybe you have a druid who's terrified of snakes, where you kind of take the trope and turn it on its head, or maybe you have a druid who actually hates animals. So you're kind of going against the grain. What are your thoughts about the tropes that kind of go into these different classes?
I'm just picturing a druid who can only wild shape into snakes, but is also afraid of snakes.
They better be named Indy. That's all I've got to say.
Oh my gosh, yes.
don't really know, only because I haven't played into tropes, but I also haven't not played into them. Like if they come up in the scene and it works with the character, like I'll run with it. Where I mean, one of my prior characters was a half-elf warlock that almost made a pact with demon because she was a librarian and really wanted that dang book. Like,
You told me about that one before.
and so it's hard to say.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would say I probably just don't have the experience yet. With my cleric that I've played, I've really played into the trope. That was a lawful good cleric who goody two shoes sort of vibe. But since then, I haven't tried to go against trope, really, but I haven't really for them either. I also find it hard to put myself in that box of chaotic neutral, lawful good, whatever it is, because sometimes just the little demons in me win, and I go, okay, character would do this, but demon do this. So I struggle a little bit with that. Yeah, I struggle with that a little bit. So I think at times I pick a trope just for the comfort of being able to follow something, especially since I consider myself newer to this with a lot of my characters. But I also don't always play to it because I go with what feels right for me on the inside in the moment. I would like to try to do some trope challenging though in the future for sure. I would definitely like to push myself to try to play something that either has like just something completely out of pocket or something that would really push me to be more creative and do more of that role playing.
Yeah, for sure. John, how do you feel about tropes?
Yeah, I think I tend to stick to it, but I would prefer that I didn't to be more creative and get out of the expected. So I usually move in that direction, but yeah, I would definitely prefer to not.
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking, like, I love playing a bard. I think it just and not a singing bard because Molly can't sing, but like the lore bards. But I've never once tried to seduce anything as a bard. And I mean that's kind of the trope that goes along with it. But I really like how and I believe all of us have seen the Dungeons and Dragons movie Honor Among Thieves.
Mhm.
And how I think his name's Elgin. The which
Chris
Chris is he? Chris
Pine.
Pine. Yeah, too many Chris's in Hollywood. He plays a bard, and I think they did a really interesting job of kind of bringing that to life. Of like, they didn't necessarily lean into the tropes of what the kind of RPG community has seen bards as. They took it kind of in a different direction. And I remember hearing commentary from the directors too of he was meant to represent the casual player who maybe isn't even aware of some of the tropes around these classes. And I thought that was kind of interesting. But I do love the idea of turning a trope on its head. And I really now want to play a druid afraid of snakes who can only wild shape into snakes. Check to see if there's any new questions. Nope. All right. Well, a friendly reminder to our viewers, please feel free to throw any questions in the chat. Wait, Anna, are you seeing a question?
I did, just because it gets me excited.
Do it.
So Tarmander asked, what's a favorite set of dice that we own? I know that's a little bit off the character creation, but I know some people have
Laura's got to run.
I was gonna say, I know some people have some examples close by. So
Laura's gonna win on that one. I don't have my dice near me. I just have one set that I recently got.
Wait, Laura, no, talk about it.
Take it.
This is a giant liquid core D20 from Dispel Dice. If you know that company, it's a very expensive dice company. You do not want to know how much this baby cost me.
It's got the nebula inside of it.
Yeah, I got it in like her. At least she did these like a year or two ago when I got it. She did like mystery boxes for Christmas. And those were also very expensive, and I was really hoping it had a chonk D20 in it, and it did. So I didn't get to pick the call or anything, but I've always really liked it. It's unfortunately like quite heavy, and I can only roll it like on carpet. So I've never really used it, only a couple times in 10 end game. So she just sits up here on
I mean,
my
it's a
on my
beautiful
desk.
paperweight. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Got the beauty of
John.
space in there.
John,
Yeah.
anniversary gift idea. What?
Oh,
Who said that?
what?
Who said that? What?
Must have been the chat.
Gee whiz. Who else has some dice to show off?
I was like, I know Alicia's got her box there.
Well, I call
Might
myself
sound
a dice
poodle out.
dragon versus a dice goblin because I collect. So this is level 1.
Level
Hmm.
1.
I see one there. I am well acquainted with Alicia's dice because I forget to bring my dice to a lot of sessions.
Yeah, level 1. Very pretty, very cool. And then
Very demure.
Very demure, very mindful. Everything's all sectioned. It's not just a bag of dice like mine
and
is.
then my level 2. I think when I counted, I had 37 sets.
Sets. Yeah.
Oh,
Don't just say 37. 37 sets.
Yes.
I need to count mine because I feel like I'm up there too.
Yeah, I've got quite a few, and John now makes dice. I don't think he has. Do you have any within reach you can show?
I don't know.
Well, we'll have to do a separate one sometime of showing yours.
I don't have it on me.
Ooh.
Gorgeous.
Those.
But I know Alicia has it, so she wants to share it. But one of my recent ones that I really liked that I happened to share with some friends was a Rickroll dice.
Yes.
I got this, and it's one of my favorite things, and it just has
I don't know if it's
all
focusing.
all the never gonna give you up lines on it. And when you hit a 1, it says, I think you've been Rickrolled. And if you hit a 20, it's just Rick Astley. So that one brings me a lot of joy. However, it doesn't have a tower, so that is a bit sad, but that's okay.
I love it. Yeah, we are dice goblins here.
Dragons, we collect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Some of us are
It's
just
not a problem. It's a collection.
You know-
Mine are in so many bags because I also have dice sets for each of my characters. So and
I'm
not just
guilty of that.
not just one, several dice sets for each active character. So
That's true.
yeah, like Skylar doesn't have it because we roll, and D&D Beyond, but I think my goblin have like five dice sets. That's for her that she rolls. So yeah.
Yeah, I play online too much, and I do miss the physical feel of like having a dice and I keep a D20 at my desk, and like every morning I'm like, what kind of day am I gonna have? Oh no, I'm having an 8 day.
Oh no.
I just rolled a 2, so
Oh no.
It means you're number 2. You're everyone's favorite pencil.
There.
There's a positive spin on everything.
Yeah, wow. Way to take that and turn it on its head. I love it. Okay, so let's go back to characters. How do you like to define your character? Do you like to create an intricate 16-page backstory, or do you kind of prefer to just get to know the character as you go?
I can take that one to start. I am page backstory. I am hardcore on the backstory, and that does shoot me in the foot a little bit because then I'll want to change things later down the line. So I think probably a good medium is what I should do, but I tend to definitely go deep into the backstory and let that guide a lot of what I then make. And I think a lot of that comes from me wanting to be able to control the narrative and what's going to happen to my character, even though that's literally not the point of D&D. It's all in the hands of the DM. But I try where I can. So I'm a hardcore backstory person.
Fair. Very fair. I did read through most, but not quite all of Warlock Pebble's backstory. It did
Poor
get a
Molly
little
already
long
knows.
towards the end.
Yeah, poor Molly already has Pebble in multiple variations. And I was just like, you don't have to read this, but here you go.
How about the rest of you?
I think it depends if I'm making a character for like campaigns. I have definitely been a person who's written so many pages of backstory. Like I've been that person where I send it and they have like a list of questions I want you to answer by character, and I go through and I answer each one, and then they much. I'm like, cool.
You broke up a little bit there. You said they don't use it after you fill it out.
Or no, like, or they say like I filled it in more than like anyone, and I'm like, I just wrote a couple sentences for each question. Like, does nobody fill this in? But I feel like sometimes that does shoot me in the foot a little bit, like, because then there's so much you need to remember, and then you can't like go off go off cuff very much. It's written out. So I think it kind of depends. I go from like writing a ton, and then my character will have very little, and then I'll be like, no, that was too much, and then I'll write a ton. I kind of go back and forth. So
yeah. John, Alicia?
I'd say I keep mine pretty minimal, just enough to tie it to the world and give me some motivation, some drive for the character, but I don't go too wild with it because, like you said, it's a lot to remember, and then you're kind of locked into what you put in there.
Yeah. How about you, Alicia?
I would say I kind of go like medium. So I do enough to give myself like a jumping board, essentially, where I can either be my chaotic self or I can kind of go with the flow of the story and have it match up to where the GM is taking us, really.
Yeah, I think I've realized I prefer to not have a big intricate backstory, because so much can change while you're actually playing the game. And I don't necessarily want to be tied down to something that I had envisioned in my head. But I've seen a lot of, I like those questions. I like to understand some motivations for the characters of like, as a DM, like what are your fears? What are your goals? Because those are the sorts of things as a DM I can freely play around with. Whereas if you've got like a novella, it's a lot harder for me to kind of go against what's in your head because you've got something really specific at that point in your head. And it's hard for me to play around with as much as opposed to just getting a couple sentences that's open-ended, and then I can take that and kind of run with it and just hope you're picking up on what I'm putting down.
Oh yeah, I liked your questions. I once got a DM to ask me to fill out like 50 questions. So yeah, like sorry, that was not a comment about you.
Oh no, I didn't think it
was. Yeah, and I've also had like DMs not read my backstory after I've written it. So like, that has leaned me a little bit away from writing really long ones. Or like I've had not great DMs like I think use backstories in a not great way. So and so I've been careful too there about what kind of details I want to include or like what I want to role play with or against. And so there's certain things I try to avoid now in my backstory based on experiences. So
I'm laughing at my sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm laughing at my 18 pages of backstory.
No, I'm not by any means complaining about it.
No, I wasn't.
I just think
I will say the last like 3 pages of this was me attempting to create catchphrases. So take that what you will.
I think what I like
catchphrases.
It was some. I don't think those should see the light of day.
That's fair.
I'm pretty sure I edited this at like 2 a.m. at some point. But they were like, because Pebble thinks she's a cleric sort of deal, so I was trying to make prayers.
Girl, don't give away too much. Don't give away too much.
I won't. That's all I said. That's all I
I'm
said.
steering the conversation. I'm saving you.
Thank you.
I think this is where I think it's important for players to DM at least once, because I think that's helped me understand when writing the background of a character, of like, if I were the DM, what sort of information would I want to know so I could play with that, without too much details, but enough that like I'd know if they were talking about my backstory and sort of thing. So that's why I'm a big proponent of folks doing both sides of the screen. Ooh, this is one we were talking about a little bit in the chat, and I think this is legitimately one of the hardest things for me. But how do you like to decide on a name for a character? And you can say name generator. I don't. That's a safe answer.
Gemini AI. I literally put in my character idea, my background without a name, and I say, "Hey, give me ideas."
That's
And then I'll
totally
pick
legit.
something, I'll change a letter, I'll be like, "Oh, I like this for my character's sister's name or my character's parents' name." And then I'll be like, "Give me something for their last name." And then that's where Astrid came from. Gemini AI.
I love Astrid. That's
Great
just a
name.
fun name. Naming is actually the one thing pretty able to do. I usually first. So I really enjoyed Pebble creating her familiar's name this round. I was like, okay, I want it to be something born from prayer books, but I wanted to have kind of dry humor, so that's where Inkwit came from. Also been reading a lot of Brandon Sanderson, so wit's been on my brain recently. And so naming is something that I actually really enjoy and I have a lot of fun with. But Alicia, to you, fantasy name generators have been around forever. I feel like I remember using those back in the day just for like naming my video game characters. I would just like plug in a video, like, fantasy name generator, pick a gender sort of thing. So yeah, it's one of those things where a lot of fantasy writers, you take a word, mess up a lot of the vowels, and you got a cool name.
And my issue comes into being able to pronounce it correctly at the same time. That's my issue with the fantasy name generators, because I'll pronounce it one way and then someone reads it and it's like, "Oh, is that how it's supposed to be said?" My
Yeah,
bad.
it's crazy when someone does Brooke and it looks like Brock.
That is how
That's
it's
just weird.
spelled in Gaelic.
Yeah,
I
but
may
it's
be
communicated
Irish, but I
through
don't
Brock.
speak Gaelic. And I mean, I have Laura
Oh.
explain her character's last name, and I'm still not even going to attempt to pronounce Skylar's last name at any point in time.
I love it. I love just reading it. It's a lot of fun. I also love how I would definitely have to. I don't know how to get those characters on a keyboard.
Laura, say the name for us one more time.
Vigrid, daughter. So then you just say it together. So Vigrid, and then it's because like in Viking, like your last name is based on like your dad's name, and then either son if you're a boy or daughter. And so I'm butchering that myself, but it's Vigrid's daughter.
Yeah, I love. See, that's a really fun way to like tie in like real world elements. John, how about you?
Oh, name generator. I've been using name generators since playing WoW. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's the way to go.
I think I like short names that still tie into the like they always have to have some sort of meaning to me. Like I have a bard named Orla because it's kind of musical but short and easy to remember, and a ranger named Clover and another ranger named Twiggy. So, oh no, she was a druid. Short names, but because they're just easy for me to remember, but I definitely want them to like speak to who they are as a character. And I feel like the class is the most defining part of a character for me. So that's kind of how I like to come up with names.
I got a little burned with my very first character I ever made. Was not that we
You
didn't
just
continue.
wait, go back. Sorry, you broke up. What was the name?
I was just saying I got a little burned with my very first character I ever made. It was not for this group; it was for a different group, where everybody in the party just chose a different name for her, and she was just forever known with that other name the whole time.
Oh,
Which was fine. It was funny, and the character would correct them, but the players truly did not know her name. So I think that also has led to me wanting shorter names like Pebble and Brooke, even though it's spelled a little different.
It's spelled
yeah,
BROC, just so you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. My brain just broke. Yeah. I think
I
that
think
reminded.
like
Go ahead.
no, keep going. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say it reminded me of the Parks and Rec. Jerry, I think his name was. Like none of them actually knew his name until like the very finale, and you learned like it's a totally different name. Like Anna's story just reminded me of that really kind of sad subplot.
That's right. I forgot about that. Oh,
It broke my heart for some reason. It's like, well, just take the time to know his name. Like you couldn't even do that much. But he had the happiest ending, so it was all good. But what were you gonna say, Laura?
I would say for me names, I sometimes will use generators for last names, but I usually always like have a first name in mind. Like Skylar just came to me because first I was thinking Air Genasi, and I think I may actually do that for like a longer campaign to play Air Genasi. But I'm looking at some of my character names and I'm like, oh yeah, the inspiration's coming. Like I played a character named Alana. So if you've ever read Tamora Pierce's books, which were great, like growing up, if you've never read them, you should. Alana's like one of the main characters. My druid name was Leaf because I just leaned in real hard to the druid. And then my dad was a little bit of a writer, and so I have a lot of characters based on characters he had made and told us stories about when we were a kid.
Neat.
But when my character I'll take characters from like video games that like are older. I just remember playing. So like one of my characters that I loved is named Midna, and that is a character from a Zelda game oh god, like 15 years ago.
Been that long?
Yeah,
I
I just had to
literally
think
just
about
saw
it.
John perk up when you mentioned that.
Yeah. And I don't think anyone I played with knew it, or maybe they did. It's not like she that character anyway, but I just really like the name. My goblin is just like I lean in. His name is Pickle, so and so I think like sometimes to come up with last names, I usually name generator, but like as I think of them, I imagine a name with them. And then I have to do name generators for all their families and stuff because I don't got time for that. So
Yeah.
I would
18
say
years
my
ago.
last 3 characters have had something to like in their name that described them without really knowing it. So Astrid the Resigned she's resigned from royalty, from her position as queen. Golly the Jolly Goblin from our Goblin Gambit. He's a rogue, but he believes in that version's Santa Claus, essentially. And then Nira, whose full name is Mist Nira, was her adoptive father found her near Mist, so called her Mist Niria, but kind of shortened it because dad pun.
Dads are good at that.
I love that.
All right. Well, how do you like to get into the mindset of a character? Like before you jump into a session, is there any sort of thing you like to do?
I would say for me, if I've made a voice for a character, I don't. But if I have a voice for a character, I'll start to talk as that character, like on the drive there or for like the half hour beforehand, if I'm staying here, to kind of get me to be that character.
Nice.
And it really just helps. And I stay in it like the whole time, if I can. So like at one point, like the DM had a closed door conversation with one of the characters, like with an NPC, and we all left and went in the living room. And like as we're talking, I was still talking like Pickle, and they were laughing at me, and I'm like, no, like I have to stay, like I'm Pickle, like I have to stay in the character. And so that really helps me, or else I just read, like I try to reread like personality, the key points, and kind of like keep those in top of mind.
I love that. How about the rest of you?
I reread my character sheet, to be honest. Like I look at the different hints that I gave myself on the background, on the character name, and that just kind of reminds me and gets me in that zone.
That's fair. John, Anna, how do you like to get into mindset of a character?
Well, the important things, of course, I have to make sure my miniature's printed and it's painted, and I have my matching dice set. So all the things that matter the most, of course.
Yes. The dice. Yes, the dice are important.
I
You,
spend a
Anna?
lot of time doodling my character. I'm not really. We have Atlas, an amazing artist. I think Laura, you do some art as well, correct?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. But I like to kind of doodle. I'll do doodles of familiars or things like that, just to kind of get the vibe or the facial expressions, what I want for a character. And then sometimes I'll use AI. I know created character images with AI for this to help with our tokens and things like that. Has been super helpful in getting in the vibe and the feel.
Love the art aspect of it. And I've definitely used the AI art to create characters, but I also like Hero Forge is a really fun way to kind of build out a character. And I've noticed, like, if it's a newer character, the way I lull myself to sleep is just like thinking about adventures with that character. And like that's what I do when I'm laying in bed waiting to fall asleep, is just be thinking about like different adventures and how that character would react to those situations. I don't know. I'm an odd little duck. Oh, this one was one I was excited about. What is a class you've always wanted to play? Or /and is there a class you've avoided? And excuse me, I got a hair in my eye, so I'm just gonna be awkwardly like rubbing at my face, but go ahead and answer that question.
So, at least a class I've always wanted to play that I haven't really been able to yet, Artificer. So cool. Tank plus spells, like yes, please. One that I've avoided, except for in Baldur's Gate, Bard, because I'm scared. I want to like do them well, and I can't.
Yeah, my very first character I ever did was a bard. I actually really liked it. I just let myself be okay with not being perfect at it, and it turned out really well.
Yeah, like what's the thing you're afraid of, Alicia? About being a bard?
So, for all of the other classes for me, like it makes sense in my brain. I can like go down the rabbit hole, but with Bard, there's so many options where I don't want to be the stereotypical Bard. So I like the lore option. I like there's one that I learned about through Venture Maidens, where it was she was not a seamstress, but like almost like a fashion designer. And being able to go down that route, and it's just there's almost like there's too many options to where I just get lost.
Gets overwhelming.
Yeah, very much so.
Laura, Anna.
I'm just looking, and I've actually played every class but telling.
I love that.
Fighter. I've never played a fighter. I almost picked that for Skylar because I wanted to play a martial character. And said I land on barbarian just because, who doesn't love to rage? And it's not that I dislike it. I feel like you can be more creative with it. You just need to, flavor it. I just have never played one. I will say to the bard comment, playing charisma-based classes to me can be a struggle because I don't think I'm very eloquent, especially like on my feet in a campaign. And so whenever I play a charisma-based class, I don't play them that way. So I play them instead like just, I don't know, that they're really friendly and they like love everybody and they try to kind of lean into that aspect. They're this great like quippy master. Because I tried to play that character once and it went so bad. It went so bad. Plus, she never rolled good either. So like she would try to make a quip and then I would roll and it would be like a 2 and it was just like okay. she just sits in the background.
I've played charisma-based characters. Like my favorite one that I've ever played is a warlock, and her name is Benrora. She went to hell. She got Batwing. She came back. Like she's the best for me, and she's super high charisma. But that's also Arcana. So I'm like, yes, please. And I don't know. It's just something that's so daunting about the bard class that just it scares me.
Yeah, that's very fair. I was getting slightly distracted by Alicia's adorable kitties having fun in the background.
I have 4.
She had her like little moment. It was adorable.
She was reaching for the closet door, and I was like, "Get it, girl!"
She wanted her 15 minutes.
She did. For me, I stay away from a lot of physical fighting classes. This is actually the most I've ever hit things physically because warlock, I don't have a lot of spells. So actually like, using a sword and stuff, I just in video games and D&D, I'm like, I want the pretty sparkle missiles. I want the pretty fun things that I can get a sword and hit with it here. So I want to do something that I can't do. But in the same breath, I've always really wanted to play a rogue. And that's a class that daunts me because I am not a quiet person. So I would struggle to play a class that really relies on stealth. So that is something I've always wanted to play, but I have never played. And so I've enjoyed watching Alicia playing a rogue in one of our campaigns and learning how she does it in a fun way that combines the personality of the character and also the rogue class. So who knows? Pebble as a rogue?
When I need to be.
Love that. Like it never even occurred to me. Like, don't be a rogue if you don't want to talk. Like to me, that absolutely is the trope. Like usually the rogue's kind of that moody, emo-ish person hiding in the shadows. But I think that kind of harkens back to those conversations we've been having. Of like, to me, it never would have. I never made the correlation, but I love that correlation that you made with that.
So I guess Golly does actually go against the trope then.
There you go.
Yeah,
you did it. You
so.
did it.
Without even knowing.
Wow. John, how about you?
I've always wanted to play a Kenku druid. I've been intimidated by the druid aspect for having to manage animals and beasts and knowing all the stats, and I think that's simplified now in the newer rules. But yeah, that's definitely been one. Kenku side of it, so I could not speak and just make animal noises, bird noises the entire time. That's my
yes.
You should probably add
everything.
Yeah. So why don't you give a background of what Kenku are, like why, in case people don't know.
Yeah, so Kenku is like the crow-like bird, and they've changed it, but in the old rule set, you were not able to speak as a Kenku. It was part of like the the curse on the Kenku. They lost their ability to fly. They lost their ability to speak. You are excellent at being a good mimic, but not having your actual own ability to speak. So for me, being a quiet person, I was planning to make bird noises the entire time and also mimic what other people at the table say in a bad mimicky way. So I think it would have been fun. So yeah, that's my dream character. Someday I'll play it. And
Someday we'll get
I
you
will
to do
never
a
play
one
a
shot.
game with John.
yeah, a one shot would probably be the good way to go. And then
Yeah.
what I don't want
I
to
want to play
play,
that now.
right?
What have you avoided? Like,
A rogue. I don't really get the hiding, and I don't understand how those rules work. I think that's also something that's been simplified in the newer rule set. Just haven't really looked at it. And I'm also really not a patient person in video games. I don't do the sneaky stuff. I just run right in and destroy things. So, yeah, doesn't really work with my playstyle.
yeah, John and I are very similar in that aspect. Rogue is one that I've avoided because, yeah, I'm the same way of like, I'm not gonna take the time to sneak around. I'm just gonna take a hammer and run and screaming like a barbarian. And it's funny, Alicia, because we're mentioning ones that you've done. Artificer is the other one I've avoided, and I think it's because to me it's so out of place in sort of the traditional D&D setting, whereas I view Artificer as more of like a steampunk element. To me it's like, wait, that's a different era. Like, how do you fit this in? And I'd say like that goes along with maybe like that kind of critical role one of like Blood Hunter or anything with like rifles or guns. To me, it's kind of a, well, you're automatically gonna win because you brought a gun to a knife fight. And I don't think I can really wrap my mind around that sort of element when I'm expecting it to be more of like medieval times. And wanted to play. I mean, I honestly have a goal though, despite avoiding some. I want to play everything at some point, just so I can understand how those characters work. So yeah. Okay, so what do you guys think about prefab characters or randomly generated characters? Like, maybe showing up to an event where they already have character sheets printed out, or like a table generated character. What are your thoughts on those? Like, you interested or just hard pass?
If I do one of those, I really hope it's like a fighter or barbarian, something that doesn't have spells. Like, I don't want to have to learn all of the spells or the availability of the spells within 5 minutes. I need more time.
That's very fair. That's actually one of my concerns about it with like casters.
Yeah, and we did that once. We went to we went to the new rule set game night that one time, and they had pre-generated characters. Was not a fan. I had no emotional connection to the character, and then you're sitting down at the table, you're getting ready to jump in a game. You don't know any of the things that have been picked. You don't know any of the spells. You're having to like learn as you play. It was not ideal.
I haven't had too much experience doing the pre-built characters. I think truly my only experience was a one-shot that Alicia ran, and it was kind of pretty simple that I was able to kind of turn into what I want. It was wizard, and it was pretty, I think a wizard, pretty kind of bare bones, so I was able to do what I wanted with it. I think I would struggle if it was more built up.
Mm-hmm. What you, Laura?
I've never done it, but I would say like if I was gonna go do it for like a one shot and I knew that going into it, like it was like for a specific like one-time event or something. I could see it. Or like, I don't know. It's hard because I've never had to do it, but I could see if I had to do it, character think too much about like spells. But yeah, I don't think I would like it that much.
Yeah,
will
I
say
think.
for
Oh, go
the
ahead.
no, sorry, I will say for the pre-builts that I did do, I made sure to leave them as like simplified as possible where you could still put your flavor on them. I think that might have helped.
Yeah, I mean, I've got this. My friend got me the roll and play press, which this is the character fantasy character kit. And you all know I'm very much obsessed with roll and play press because they understand how my chaotic little brain works. But I've never really sat down to think about like, is this really a way I would want to approach a character? And so they have like all of the different classes in here, and it's literally like randomly generated charts of like distinctive features, ceremonial armor for a cleric, sanctified weapons and artifacts and holy trinkets, and magical equipment and things like that. But I think it would be kind of interesting to actually play a campaign that way, maybe, of like just kind of rolling up these characters and having a little time to prep them ahead of time. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about something like that?
I think that could be good. I have used. I'm trying to think what book it is in. It's not over here. It's in that bookshelf. But Xanathar's. Xanathar's has those tables in them that help you like think of like backstory stuff. And I have used those to be like, oh, how many things do they have? Let's just roll for it. And it has things like that. And so I have used those to help me like flesh out more backstory stuff in the past. And so like kind of leaving it up to the dice. I could see the fun and the chaos with that.
Yeah, I think to me like that's the chaotic element I haven't played around with before, but I think I'd be interested in trying out at some point. How about the rest of you?
So I've seen the I think they're called character dice that some people have made where it actually has like the different races, the different classes that you can just roll.
Yes.
And really just like lean into the dice rolls. Now for me, as long as I have some prep time, I'm full send, full chaos. Let's do it. But if you give me like 5 minutes, nah.
Those are great for like creating NPCs on the fly because I know for like when I'm DMing, I only have like 3 character like species I can think of, and it's always like you see a tiefling, human, or elf, and like I go blank on every other option. But it's nice to have that as like a quick little roll it. Oh, look, you have a giant or something like that. I'm done with all my questions. Were there any other questions you guys wanted to bring up about character creation?
I did have just one.
Go for
What
it.
was something that you learned from playing your first character compared to like who you're playing now? Like
That's
I
a
know
great
for
question.
me, I learned how to apply my chaos. And what I mean by that is like my character. So my very first character, Venrora, she is a half elf warlock who is very sheltered, made a pact with Persephone to save her mother's life. And so she was very much sheltered, very much bookish, like very bookworm, very no common sense, really, to where like she'll touch a cursed object more than once with bare hands type of. But that's the chaos that I'm talking about. Is that's specifically like what I would put in as the chaos, and then I'll be able to still guide her with the background that I gave her of her patron is Persephone, and she has a human mom and a elf father, and you know that their lifespans are totally different. So, like, what does that do to her psyche, her character development, things like that?
How about the rest of you? Or Alicia, you want to say that question again? Because it is a great question.
What have you learned from your first character in relation to like who you're playing now?
I think for me, it's learning how to kind of everything we've talked about of like breaking away from tropes, making them unique, adding that element of chaos. And I think most of it for me comes from just being more comfortable with the rules and understanding the game, understanding what I like from the game, which is the role playing element. So bringing forth a character who's not so flat, but has these quirky elements to like right now I'm playing a Kenku Warlock, and she only talks in third person now, because that was sort of my nod to the mimicry side of it. So I like to now add quirks, whereas before I wasn't quite comfortable with that because I was so focused on understanding the mechanics of the game that now I'm okay going beyond that.
I would say for me, maybe like leaning in more into my character, and I feel like that can be taken in a lot of different ways. As in, like, I like the quirks. I try to do that. Like, that's why Sky, and she's really into dogs. We just haven't had any show up yet.
Give it
Yeah, I'm not a cat person. I'm allergic to cats, though I love them. I mean, I petted one like 3 days ago, and then touched my face, and it was very bad. um, and and so like I like quirks. I'm also like I've actually none of my characters have died, but like I'm no longer afraid of that. And I think I have been afraid of that in the past where I've like not done what the character would have done because I was afraid of the character potentially dying. And so kind of leaning into like would they sacrifice themselves? Would they go into that? Would they, um, what would they actually do here? And so, I've just tried to lean in more into my characters. I don't mind tropes as much. I don't think I answered that question, but because I think anything could be considered like a trope, in some ways. Like I've never played like a bard that's obsessed, with having sex or anything, but like I don't know. I do play a goblin who likes, who's kind of goblin-y. And but yeah, I just try to lean in now more with my characters.
I think for me, it's a lot about letting go that control aspect of I really do pretty ham on my back. I kind of get a little obsessive over what I want to happen and how. So I've learned to, get all the stuff out there for what I like and what I think about, but also knowing that it's probably most of it's not going to come up and that's okay. And it's really just for me, it's the fun, getting back to the fun of it. As long as I keep that in mind, that's why we do this. To have Yeah, I'd say that kind of is what keeps me and what I've learned since I've started.
Nice.
For me, it sounds simple, but play what you like. I think it's very important, especially for new players, because you're gonna be given the advice of coming from another DM, which I followed a DM's advice with my first character, and then I played the character and hated the character and had no interest in playing. You're gonna sit there and you're gonna play for 4 hours. It has to be something you like. Also, I know a lot of new players are encouraged to not play casters because it's more complicated, but I find melee characters to be more on the boring side. So I think for me, it was a lot more fun playing a caster as my first character. And now I have a hard time not playing a caster for those reasons. So that's kind of what I picked up.
Great. Well, I think that was a really great question to kind of wrap up on, where our whole journey as players and how we've come along. So just want to thank everyone who has joined us for our Owlbears After Dark tonight. We really loved all the questions in the chat. Would invite you to join our Discord. I believe the link is in the chat. We will be back next Tuesday with the continuation / I suppose finale, finally, of Fishy Business, since we got a little laywayed by a gangplank last time. So we will be back to just a little bit. Back to gameplay, actual play. That was the word. Next week. So tune in at 7 p.m. Eastern right here. Give us a follow so you don't miss anything. And we will chat with you all next time. Thanks for joining us. Bye, everyone.
Bye, all.
Bye.